Hello and welcome to the latest ARCHLine webinar. My name is Zoltán. Over here is, as always, our resident architect, Mr. Illés Pap.
Hi there.
Today's session is the second part of the Introduction to Interior Design in our ARCHLine webinar series. Last time we looked at the basic fundamentals, how to use the software to create interior spaces. Today we are going to go more into detail in terms of bathroom design. We'll be talking about tiling, how to create tiling styles, and most important of all, how to create quantity takeoffs, which is a very important part of your work if you are ever working in bathroom design projects. Today's session is going to lay a heavy emphasis on questions that we will be asking from you. These questions might be about our software or ourselves, or other things that you might have already done with ARCHLine. So make sure you actually have access to the chat bar. So say hi to us. And in this chat bar, which you see on the right-hand side for me, you can submit your answers to the questions that we will be asking through the show. So I'm saying hi to you now, and you can also do your part. What we are going to do today is that, apart from asking questions from you, also if you have any questions that you want to talk about during the show, we'll be doing that too. Anyway, let's look at the project that we have at hand. As always, we are going to take a look at one single project, and we are going to do all these things within that one. So let's see the project what we have. Sorry, before we actually start, one part of how to manage your project is actually how to handle your models. So you need to know how to work your way around in 3D spaces, and that's where our first question comes in. The first question is about perspectives, like the one you see here. So the question is how to quickly navigate between your perspective views with the mouse scroll, with the page up, page down keys, or via the view menu. So there might be actually more than one correct answer. So submit your guess A, B, or C into the chat bar. And now I give the word over back to Illés to show us how to handle this model effectively.
Well, I think partially we covered some of these, but I think it's wise to repeat how to handle the drawing, how to handle the 2D and the 3D content, and how to swap between those, and how to use the project navigator. So first things first, whatever you see as an active window, like for example this here, that's the place where you handle the content. That's the place where you create things. Of course, whatever you place, whatever you design in the 3D will appear in the 2D, and whatever you design in the 2D, it will be reflected in the 3D, right. And all connecting drawings. To handle the content, first let's focus on how to switch the drawings, how to swap the drawings. So if I would like to make this on the left-hand side and turn this to the right-hand side to make this more important and to be on focus, I just click on this here. So whenever you would like to swap drawings, you just activate the drawing and click on this button. This will swap the drawings. Mm-hmm. Now, to handle content, you will be able to use your mouse completely and only. It's the scroll up and scroll down, that's the zoom in and zoom out. When you hold the mouse wheel and keep holding it and moving the mouse, then that's movement. I mean, that's how you pan the content. And in the 3D, it happens all the same, with one specialty, of course, that you can handle. You can orbit around the model. Mm-hmm. For that, you need to keep holding the shift key and the mouse wheel, just as in case of pan, and then moving the mouse, and that's how you orbit around the model.
That's right. We actually have a few perspectives saved already.
Yes.
Which we can use to take a look around. So I think this is actually the time when we reveal the answer to the first question. Yeah. When it comes to perspectives, there are actually, this was a tricky one because there are actually two ways to do it. First, you can do the jumping between the views via the page up and page down keys, and you can also access your perspectives via the view menu. There are other places where you can access your perspectives, so just use whichever is more convenient. So let's take a look around. Let's see what kind of project we have here.
So in the 3D, I will use the page up, page down keys to navigate through the views. These are the views that we will use today. Some of them are saved from the previous, the final version. So when we will create the final renders, it will look nice and will show a lot of details. And as you can see, this room, this bathroom is rather large. It has a lot of surfaces that we can work on. It has a double bathroom sink. It has a large wall at the left-hand side, quite a lot of space to decorate. And also this bathroom, the shower area and the back wall will be covered in this tutorial with mosaic tiles. and also this specific wall here, you know, when you have the large wall with a smaller appendix in front of it. And we will also teach you how you can design, how you can tile that, how you can decorate or cover it.
Mm-hmm. In addition to that, we'll be also talking about some sanitary ware, what you can see on this floor plan, and we'll also look at, in brief, at the visuals and how to place lighting. But let's start with the tiling itself, right?
Yeah.
So when it comes to tiling a surface, there are several ways to proceed. Show us a couple of examples of how you do this.
Well, actually, there is always the option to decorate only one surface, or one part of a larger surface. So you don't have to decorate all the surface that you have. You can set up so-called background areas to determine where your area is. I mean, for example, that's a very large wall here, and I just would like to cover a part here. Then I can do that, setting up the area here. One direct way to decorate the surface is actually when you see it in front of you. You know, when you right-click there, you will be able to find the tiling, and there are the tiling tools here. So you can say that, for example, you would like to tile only this wall or all the walls. Actually, whichever option you will go with, you will be able to change it later. And also there is something that we call tiling on layout, which we will show a little bit later, which allows you to set up a layout and modify the tiling, the areas, the distribution, the colors and everything else on a 2D layout, like for example on an elevation view. It will look like an elevation view.
It's a bit similar to the wall view that we did this last Tuesday when we had the last show. So what would be the first thing that you do?
What I will do now, I will use this select and place a tiling style on all the walls. And starting with that, we will show you also how you can set up tiling styles. Now, for example, if I would like to set up a tiling style, I can go to set up this distribution method of how it looks like. And whenever I have a tiling style on the right-hand side, I can always change to something else, and it will be represented here at the left-hand side. Soon we will cover how you can set up something like this or the other one. But first, I would like to show you something even simpler than that. You can, anytime you can find a tiling that you can freely distribute all around, and then you can decide which you would like to keep or erase all of those. And there is actually two ways to do that. Last session we mentioned something called the room maker. The room maker is also a good starter point. If you do not handle yet how to navigate around in the 3D, then that could be a good starting point. But other than that, you can just simply go to use the interior and tiling tools as well. And here you can, again, you have the same options. You can use the tiling, tiling in 3D. And talking about texture and tiling, what's the difference between the two? There is an important difference, which you will see at the end of this session, that if this would be only a picture of a tiled surface, not tiles themselves, then the software couldn't calculate the number of tiles that's necessary to decorate a certain area.
So it won't show up in the quantity takeoff. If you just add it as a texture, it doesn't count into the calculations.
Yes. So if that's only a simple photograph of a tiled surface, it will be a photograph of a tiled surface, so it won't be calculated in the way it will be now when we do that. So what I will do now, I will just use this tiling on wall side, and then see, this is what happens. You can select the wall surface, and then the software will offer this tool. So you can decide
what do we do here?
With which option you would like to go. The default selected now is the mosaic tiling. But actually, mostly we start with this option here, and the tile itself that I would like to place now is something close to this one, but it's actually a vertically aligned tile. So I just go to the libraries and I try to find one that I'm about to work with. Now, actually, these are already selected here, but of course, just as we covered in the last session, you can either go to the BIM libraries and find some tiling and download that from from the libraries, and also you can have other sources. But I think that's a point where we should have a question here.
That's another question from us, but there are no right or wrong answers to that. So where do you get your manufacturer tiling in ARCHLine.XP? So when you work with the software, where do you get your tiles from? From our showroom, from ARCHLine.XP's BIM object or Synchronia libraries, from manufacturer websites, online catalogs. We showed you last time how that works. Yep. From photographs taken on site, or maybe from other sources. Tell us your ideas, tell us how you work, and that way we better understand how you are working. Back to design. So once we decided which one would be the most suitable tile for our purposes, what do we do?
So then you select this material. The software will recognize its size. You can set up the thickness, the grout depth, and so on. And also, keep that in mind that if you would like to cover a whole area, not just like 3 by 3 pieces, then you should go with this option here. And then here is the option to set up the grout size, the width of the grout.
Yes.
And then, of course, there are other options, but this project is not for these sort of distribution. So I just go with this setting, and I say OK. And then I can select from where I would like to start this styling and how I would like to.
Did I see it correctly that you can also decide on the angle of the tiles being distributed?
Yes, actually, this thing will happen if I go to the floor surface, and for example, I would like to select this tile. There is another option. If you would like to place a material as a tiling, you can just simply go there. You can find those materials in the material library. And I think it's our tiling, which I would like to use now, is somewhere here at the end of this list. So I click here, and I just click and drag onto the 3D area, and I can say that, well, I can use it as a tile-in. So I just click on a surface, and then it's automatically distributed. So either you go with the tiling tool, and then you can decide the starting point and the alignment, or you just use the default settings, and then still you have the option to change the orientation, the distribution, and so on. Anyhow, if you would like to erase any of those, you can always right-click there, and you can say that, okay, delete this tiling, or all the tilings if there was other areas decorated in this room, then the software will just simply clear up everything.
How about just changing few of the tiles? You don't want to erase the whole thing, but maybe you want to have some of the tiles to be different than the others.
I think for that now I will just go with another tiling, so I will just quick tile the whole area. Again, using this list and going to the end. It is actually
the palette of all the materials that you have been using. So
yeah. So I have this long list because in this project I have used many different tiles. So what I will do now, I just quickly go around and just tile this area, and for example this area, also the top of this surface. So I can just go around, and then whenever I would like to, I can align these grouts here. But if I would like to, just as you asked, if I would like to change one specific tile, then I can right click on that tile, and I can say that, well, okay, I would like to change the selected tiles. So then I can select which tiles I'm about to change, for example these and this. Then I can go into this modify the tiling option, and I can go and find another one and say okay, and then the software changes the layout.
Perfect. So you first choose the tile which is dominant on your plan, tile the whole wall, and then you can change these individually one by one. But I think for this purpose maybe the tile style would be better, or the layout styling.
Yes, if you would like to create something more sophisticated, or something that you can actually save as a style, because that's the whole point, then you should go with the tiling tool and the tile styles. Now there's in the interior tiling you can find this placing tiling style. Now whenever you are about to set up a tiling style, you can either select any of those appearing at the left hand side, and whenever you click on this or this or this, you will have a preview of what you will get. But if you would like to create your own tiling style, you should go to Interior, Properties, and Tiling, and this is where you can actually build your own tiling list. So here I think I will use some predefined list of distribution, and in the meantime you can talk a little bit about these sources and how we build up this this styling style.
Okay, the point is that, as we illustrated the first time during the first webinars, is that it doesn't really make too much sense to keep on creating new things and not using them. So in order to avoid that you would need to create things over and over again, you are able to set up anything in ARCHLine that could be a wall or slab or even a tiling pattern, and you can save it into a style. Now, when you do that, you actually have several choices in terms of how you are going to use that. You can just make it as a local style, which could be just used in that particular project that you are working on. So anytime something similar comes up, you can just pull up that style. But if you want to make it a sort of a global setting that you can use in other projects as well, you can do that. You can save it into that particular folder in which you can access it anytime, even in other projects. What's even better than that is that if you move your workstations, you want to go to another computer or you upgrade to a newer version of ARCHLine, you can carry on these style packages with you. So you can just wrap this whole environment with you, along with your settings, the units that you're using, and all the others call it templates, we call these styles, but every setting, every customized thing that you have made in ARCHLine, you can just pack up and take it to another workstation and continue your work with that. Continue your work there. Also, you can share this with other colleagues of yours. So if they are working with a similar environment, they are also working in ARCHLine, they are able to use your styles even if they want to. And that's basically how you can handle that. But it's strange because whenever I'm working with ARCHLine, sometimes I forget about using styles for basically everything. I just use it for certain purposes. But you should never forget that these are things that you can use in any kind of design effort in ARCHLine. For instance, for wall slabs and any kind of styles. What happens now is that once you have decided what the desired patterns and materials should be, you are going to do the same thing. You are going to save this and you are going to name this accordingly. So that way it will be always at hand.
Yeah, talking a little bit about the details, because in the background I have created this layout, but those steps that you mentioned are pretty simple. What you do here, you either start with an existing style and you customize it, or you just select something and erase and erase and erase and clear it back to the bottom, and then you build it up again. So what you can control here, you can set up the height of one specific area, and then you can decide whether you would like to see the tiling on that area or not. And if you would like to, then what sort of tile will be distributed there. You can also set up the alignment, the starting point. So should it be the left corner, the right corner, or the center? And also you can set up the grout. Now, in case you do not have a grout, but you would like to have a painted area, I will show you how you can create that very soon. But after that, you just add the new one, customize it, add the new one, customize it, add the new one. Whenever you select a tile and you go there is also one option that I use now. Originally it was this layout, but I have rotated it to the left. You can do it the other way around. So this way you can, even if the original tile was portrait, you can make it landscape, and then you can use the same tile just in different layout easily.
So yes, basically you can use manufacturer tiles, but you can also customize them, make them more special in certain areas. You can even resize them.
Yes, and there is one more thing that I'm just doing now. As you can see, I have a new stripe here with a height of 50 centimeters, and I have decided to remove the tiling, and in that case I can actually use this area for paint this area with some specific paint or pattern.
Why don't you just leave it as it is? Why do you have to add another surface then?
You can do that. That's also something that you can do, but in that case the wall color, the wall material will be the one that appears there. So if you would like to also save how the top area is painted with what sort of color, what sort of style, or sometimes perhaps wallpaper or something else goes there, then this is the way to control it, and this is the way you can actually save it in a new style. Because once you finish it, you can save it in a style in the stylist. Now, before I do that, there is one more thing here. There's a gap here where still the wall color is still visible through. So again, to avoid that, it's enough just to set up something large enough to, you know, run over.
So it's not going to reach over it, right?
Yeah,
so it just reaches the top of the wall piece.
Yeah,
and
yeah. So
it
if
stops
the
there.
wall ends, this painted area will end, so it won't
okay.
be sticking out like
Yes.
a plane or something like that. So to control its color, you can go here and say, for example, this is bright white or something like that. And then I go with this one, I like that, and then redraw, and then I have a better result.
Perfect. Okay, so you set up your style, you saved it. What's next?
Now I just quickly save it. Let's say this is some sort of Z tiling or something like that. That's just a name. You can name it after the maker. You can name it the way you can remember that. You can even create subfolders and folders and subfolders to further you know, organize it.
Yes.
And when you are finished, there's your new style, and when you click OK, from this point on you can use this style. Using that, you should go to tiling and place in tiling style, and in this case, whenever I click here, see now the software used this tiling style to cover this area.
So now it doesn't have to click an origin point, you just click on the wall where
yeah,
you want to
because
position
the
it.
tiling style itself has the setting for distribution. So yeah, so this is how you can do it. If you click this way around, and you can set up another layout with a different style, but you can just actually quickly go around and set up the
now
tiling.
there's something that we perhaps need to explain. So we see that there's a wall piece, there's an appendix, as you called it, behind the toilet and the other sanitary ware.
Yeah.
My question is the wall piece behind it tiled?
Yeah.
If you click on it, we can actually see
So
when it's
just
highlighted.
let me just quickly hide it. If I click here, hide this object, see, it's tiled.
Okay, so now normally
not really
this
correct.
shouldn't be a problem if we are just making rendered images, but if we are looking to get quantity out of this, then this extra wall piece, which is actually not there, could actually throw off the accuracy of the calculations. So what do we do in order to omit this part from the tiling style?
Now I will just quickly rebuild the 3D to get back to the original result, so we can see that. And then let's talk about this this tiling layout. See, now it's there, so it's in front of real tiles.
Yes.
To get rid of this area, I need to go back to the 2D, and there I can use the tiling in 2D, and I can click on the option that I'm about to use. Now the difference between the first two, that for example this wall is a very, very long wall with the separation here, but this is one piece. So if I would go with this, I would be able to see actually two layouts next to each other. If I'm going only with this one, then I can handle this layout separately than this to this layout. So at this case, it's actually both the same. So I just go with this one, I click on the wall side, and then I click here, and then now I can see this layout in 2D with the window, and then I can see that, well, actually perhaps these 1, 2, 3 and 4, 5 areas should be completely removed. So as you can see now, this new toolbar appeared for the tiling design, and then here I can actually edit the layout, and I can recognize which layout I would like to work with. Let's just go with this one.
Because every single row of different styles would be counted as one surface, right?
Yes,
so
yes. So I just click there. Let's repeat that. I just click there, I click on the edge, I select offset, I move it the way back I want, I hit enter, I click finish, and then the software finishes that. And there is this area where I don't want to completely remove the whole thing. I just would like to remove this tiny part here. So when I click here, edit this one, I don't want to completely have this offset here, but instead of that, I insert a node here, and I click here, and I click move offset, and then enter and enter. So this is how I can remove that part. And then when I click finish, then the software finishes the editing the layout, and I can still keep the layout for any sort of purpose. I can use it for measuring the distances, add detailed description, labels, or anything else.
Mm-hmm. So this is actually the thing that you have to keep an eye on when you're doing calculations, and you should usually do that. I mean, once you have the tiling, you would need to get some kind of calculation out of it. Another question, what if you were to place a large mirror on the wall? And perhaps that's a built-in element, so you wouldn't need to have tiles behind it, right?
Yes, for that I actually cover the rest of the walls because I need to cover this as well. That's the area we are about to show now. It's tiling, placing tiles, and then I just use the same style here. So here, and actually we could repeat the same thing on the other wall, but we just keep it simple for this single wall. I can do the same thing. I just go back to the 2D. I select tiling in 2D on the wall side or on the wall part only. On this one, I can place it next to it. It's for my convenience, and then I can go there and say add new, and with this add new, I can select an area, like for example this one here. And then I can select what sort of material I would like to see there. So if I have something called like mirror, I can go with that one and okay, and then the software will cover it. And on the 2D, it's always simplified to hatches and colors and things like that. But in the 3D, it's already appearing as a mirror surface.
Perfect. I think in the beginning, you also mentioned that we are able to put down a mosaic tiling.
Yeah.
And that's what we are going to demonstrate in a minute. But first, a question to existing ARCHLine users, because I see from the chat bar that there's quite a few of you. So when it comes to mosaic tiling, our question is, how many different tiles can be combined in a mosaic layout? And we'll reveal the answer in a second, but let's talk about mosaic. So the way it works in our software is that it takes a certain number of tiles together and it does a random distribution of them. Now, this is something that whenever it happens, it might happen that it's quite heavy on your CPU because it does a random distribution. So whenever you are placing a layout like that one, you can expect that at some point of your design, the layout should disappear or deactivate for a second. You don't need to worry about that. That's quite natural. That's the way ARCHLine tries to convert some processing power. It's still there. It's just sometimes you have to zoom in and out to make it appear again. So let's look at mosaic tiling. And this is actually the answer to the question. So 4 tiles can be combined.
Yes. I was too quick.
Yes,
yeah.
You were too quick to reveal. So
yeah.
Up to 4 tiles can be combined into one layout. And also you can see the fill rate next to it, which is actually the distribution proportion. So
yeah.
You have
in the meantime, I'm just quickly selecting the tiles the tiles themselves that I would like to distribute there.
So let's just choose 3 or 4 different tiles, and you know, this is something that even if the tile has a manufacturer size, it's going to be scaled down to a preset size that you are going to set up. Now, regarding the fill rate, like I said, you have a manual command on the distribution proportion. And once you do that, you just hit OK, and the program does one randomized distribution for you. If you don't like that, you can regenerate it anytime you want. But that's one of the things that would take some processing power, but once it's done, you can just be on your way and work with it. So Ilya is now combining 3 or 4 different styles.
Let's say that will be 4.
Yes,
and the last thing, I'm about to find some nice darker tone here,
something
like
with
this
more
one.
contrast, so we can see what's going on.
And then, just as you said, you can set up the balance between the two, and also you can use various sizes. So if you click with this one and you change the distribution, it will be a bit different than just an equal like this. For example, you can also play with the layout itself. Yes. If I select this one here to have another distribution, then this is how it will look like. But if you just use the same size, all the rest goes here, and just click on refresh preview, then you will have an even layout, but the mosaic tiles will be distributed 25% each based on this balance.
Can you also save this into a style?
Well, this is something that you can actually use as it is now, because it's not something that you can save into a style, but you can just select quickly these things, and then you can actually copy separate distributions if you want to. The style saving is not supported for this because, just as you mentioned, this is very CPU intense.
Yes.
So
it's pretty randomized, so you're very unlikely to get the same results 2 times.
Yeah, so you won't get the same results, but that's the whole point. It will be random distributed.
Okay, what happens if we see that it's placed, but what happens if I don't want this to be going from ceiling to, well, from floor to ceiling. So how do you have a command on how high this goes up?
Well, in that case, you should right-click to the area and you should go with the Edit Background area. That's actually the same thing that I have done on the rest on the other side when I made space for the front wall.
Yes.
And then I just click here and I say offset, and then, for example, I use the top of this
as a point of reference.
This glass wall. And when I click OK or I hit enter, I can even use the finish button here. Then the software chops down the top, and it regenerates the layout. And there was a question about how you can set up the distribution, how you can align the joint positions of the tilings. Of course, you can do that. Like, for example, to avoid this chopped tiles here, you can always redistribute the tiles. There's an option to do that if you right-click on any of these. If you do not use the tiling style, then it becomes more important, because in that case you likely to have to manually set the starting position. Just as we mentioned at the beginning, something similar happens when you redistribute the tiles.
Perfect. Now, that's what we wanted to say in terms of tiles. We will be leaving tiles for a while until we return to them when it comes to consignation and quantity takeoffs. Let's talk about other things that we see on this floor plan, namely the sanitary ware.
Yeah.
And before we do that, actually, it's another round of surveying you as ARCHLine users. Do you ever have to do bathroom projects with 2 or more bathroom sinks?
Or how often?
Yes, how often? This might seem as a random question, but we talked about this in the office, and turns out that we have seen projects like this before. But it's just very interesting to know how often does it actually happen.
Yeah.
Speaking of sanitary ware, we already talked about the certain platforms from which you can bring in elements, but let's illustrate that now.
I think we should talk about at least 2 or 3 of these. Because there is the always go-to option. That's the BIM object application, which you can activate for ARCHLine for free. This is a good place to start. You are good with these numbers. They have
so I think they have now approximately 850,000 registered users and millions of objects. So it's a growing library. So on the plus side, this is growing by the hour. So if you don't find exactly the thing that you're looking for right now, you might find it in a couple of days or weeks. Yes,
actually, these are more than only sanitary ware, so all sorts of things you can find there. Yes. Many of them are MEP objects, plumbing and other things, but there are also doors and other objects. If we would like to get tiling and all sorts of other sanitary ware, we should go with either with the sanitary ware option or Synchronia, or also we have this built-in showroom where we actually distribute tiles and other things from makers. So, for example, if you go to the manufacturer Gabarit, then you can just find all sorts of different wash basin, toiletry, and other things that you can just find there and download.
Yes, actually the good thing about these items is that you don't have to worry about their sizes or manufacturer properties, because they are actually warranted by the manufacturer that these are actually those elements.
These are the difference between the showroom and other sources, is that the showroom is the place where manufacturers contacted directly us. So it's not like, for example, 3D Warehouse, which is hosted by some completely different company. It's good to use because it's easy to connect.
That's right.
But there are also objects that are not from makers. Some of them are generated by enthusiasts who like to model nice things. That's right. And that's a nice thing to have. But if you would like to go and find something that you cannot find on these free places, then you should also check the showroom or the other sources.
That's right. So let's see how that works. Let's find one item and insert it into our floor plan.
Well, I think I will just quickly go with, for example, with this one. So how I can place it, I just select it, I click on download, and then it happens the same way just as we discussed last time. You can either select the wall surface, you can select the floor. Now I'm starting to create this thing in the 2D, so it won't be appearing in the 3D. I mean, the floor selection won't appear in the 3D. I will only be able to place it on the 2D layout, and then of course seeing it in the 3D, I will be able to control and see how it changes. I think we have an issue with the connection here.
I think it's because we are streaming as well, so you have to take it from us that you can download things.
I need to terminate it, but I'm sorry for that. I need to terminate it, but yeah.
And the thing is that streaming this to YouTube takes a lot of work power and processing power from the CPU and from the bandwidth as well. So let's load up the project again and talk about other things that we have at hand. And that is one of the things that we have we are yet to cover is the quantity takeoffs.
Yeah, and I think now I will load the final stage of this project soon after we finish.
It's actually a very good place to demonstrate how ARCHLine saves things automatically.
Yeah.
So although we haven't manually saved anything, it does load up the last things that we did.
That's a fail-safe option.
Yes.
Which also with a laptop, sometimes it happens with me that I forgot my power cable.
Yes.
And yeah, so in that case, it could stop, unfortunately, but after that I can bring it back. So. What I'm about to do here, see now the 2D and the 3D is asynchronous, so I just quickly synchronize the 2D with the 3D, and then whatever I made changes here and whatever was kept after this termination will be brought back automatically, and now I can go and save it. But the question about your side was how to create quantity takeoffs. Now about quantity takeoffs, there's one more thing. What if we place also lamps, a few, and then
then
demonstrate?
Let's do that first because we want the lamps to be part of the quantity takeoffs as well.
I think last time we also talked a little bit about lamps, but we didn't show how we can distribute ceiling lamps.
That's right.
So yes, I will place a few of them here, and also I would like to show you how you can distribute these things around using a specific tool called multiply or array.
But don't forget that this is not only limited to lamps. You can multiply any kind of elements using these commands. So we thought it's a very good place to talk about these.
Yeah, so I can either select any of these ceiling lights, or I can go with, and I think now I will just simply select the spotlight or any of those. I set up the base offset. That's always the bottom reference point measured from the floor, which in this case it should be at least 2.6 meters. And then when I click OK, then I can place one of these at least. Now, if I would like to see more, not just one, then I can go and find this distribution option in the edit option, and there is the duplicate here. Now there is, you can duplicate and rotate, duplicate and scale, array, and this is actually what I would like to show you, that it allows you to select one or multiple things, and when you hit enter, you need to set up the number of copies that you would like to see. Let's say this is about like 6 copies that I would like to distribute, and then I'm about to select the first point, and then graphically I can set the end point, or if I know the distance between the first and the last point, like it's 3.8 or something, then I can distribute it that way. And then if I would like to distribute 3 rows of this,
duplicate this one row.
I just use the same thing again, array, 2 more, and okay. And with this one from this point, I would like to distribute like this here. Okay. And the same thing I can repeat here. To talk about the tiling distribution, I mean the Excel files.
That's right.
I think I quickly try to find the final version of this project. It's this here. Which is completely fitted with all sort of sanitary ware and decoration, and the final version of tiling, and there is also lighting distributed.
There will be more to see there. So,
and the reason I'm doing that because it is also good for rendering. The light sources are already set to work properly. So let's just go to have a nice view on this from the other end of the room, like for example from here, and then I just go to documentation, quantity takeoff, and I use this Excel list here. Now this Excel list has quite a lot of options here. I can also create an interior calculation. I will do it after.
That's
now I will just use the tiling.
Something that we have already illustrated during the first show, but now we are more focused on tiles.
So these options here, walls and slabs. I have decorated walls, I have decorated slabs. Room is an architectural feature used via the room and area function, so we won't use it in case of bathrooms most of the time. Roof is for roof tiling, so again, I don't need it now. And other is actually everything else, because in ARCHLine, if you can select a surface, it can also be lamp shade or something like that. You can also tile it. It will be a bit difficult to tile a surface like this, but you can do that. And then you can also export that. So the reason I have these two options selected only because that's the area that I'm interested in. So I click OK, and let's just override the previous listing here. Click select, save, and then if you already have installed Microsoft Excel, then the software opens that, always with a preview and the name of the product that I have used, and also there's the size and the area tiled with that that specific tile. And then after the tile summary comes the area and the tile detail summary. So the areas are the areas that are only painted. So those are not the areas that are tiled, but the like the white paint, so and see the mirror, for example. Yeah, and the ceiling if you use the tiling. I mean only background area on the ceiling. So and if you go to the tile details, you will be able to see the areas listed in detail. Also, the software lists how many pieces were uncut and how many pieces were cut above and below 50%, and then also the calculation here. So if I would like to find, well, okay, there's a wall called 26, which one is that? Then I can go back to ARCHLine and I can find it in the Edit, Select, by Properties. And there is a property called ID, and if I believe 27. It was 26, right?
6, yes.
So I just click OK, and then the software goes to the 2D. Sorry, I was in the 3D. So I just repeat that. Let's just make sure that it's really 26. Yeah, it's 26. So select by Properties ID 26, and OK. So now it selects this wall.
So it actually tells you instantly which wall piece you have to you are working on. So that's for documentation. It's very good that you get little thumbnails regarding how the tiles look like, and you get the manufacturer items and the manufacturer sizes. Let's talk a bit more about visuals. We already showed the lamps, but you promised us one render. Maybe we can crank out.
Yes, about the rendering here, there is this spotlights. Also, there is this special light here. You can also bring in sunlight, just as we discussed in the previous session. You can set up the geolocation. You can set up the north direction, and then once you hit rendering here, you have always two options. Either you go with standalone or integrated. There is always the final renders and real-time draft. Even if you start with real-time draft, you can later turn it into a final, and you can set up what sort of resolution and what sort of settings you would like to use. I think I will go with widescreen rendering with artificial lights enabled. Perhaps there's sunlight as well that I would like to see. And well, this time I won't see the background, but it's of course nice to set up the background because you might have
in case you have a video or something like that.
Yes. So you can just quickly set up the settings, and then the software generates the model, and you can create the render. And I think in the meantime, I will just quickly find some of the final images that I have here, and then loading up the renderer, which appears here. I'm just quickly finding that.
So that's actually, while the render works, that was what we wanted to talk about in terms of tiling, tile styles, and most importantly, quantity takeoff. So, wow, this looks very good.
Yeah. So, and this is not necessarily even the final. Of course,
yes.
The porcelains that we used here are from the default libraries of ARCHLine. You can set up your own custom tiling. You can change the reflection. This we will cover a little bit more detailed in the visual session.
Yes.
And also we will talk about lights a little bit. Do we have a question about lights? I believe we do have.
Yes, we do. So whenever we talk about lights, we sometimes refer to this sort of IES lights. That's something that we mentioned this Tuesday when we talked about the fundamentals of interior design. Question to you: what is IES? It's a standard light source format. It's a sanitary ware manufacturer, or is just another 3-letter acronym. So submit whatever you think IES is into the chat bar. Until then, one other thing what I wanted to tell you is that it's whenever we have a session like this, we usually have tons of questions. We try our best to include them into the next webinars that we are hosting. And actually, the content that you see here is largely made by the requests made according to the questions that people are asking from us.
Yeah, for example, there was a question about wall views. Last time we discussed that you can generate wall views. It's similar to what we see on screen in the background about the tiling layout, but wall views will also generate content in front of the wall, not only the wall.
Yes.
And there was a question about how they will reflect changes. And the answer to that is that in the right-click menu, you will always have options also for the tiling, that you can continue tiling. And in case using the wall view, the wall elevation, you also have the same option. There will be a new option appearing, update wall elevation. And in that case, the software will just as in case of the layout, the plot layout, yes, which we will cover at the last session, I believe, you can update the changes. In ARCHLine, the update of changes in the 3D, in the rendering, and in the layouts is transactional. So that means you decide when you have the time to wait for the update process. Because if everything would happen automatically in a medium ability computer, you would have to wait a lot.
That's
just
right.
for the changes. So you can, whenever you push the 3D hammer, that's for updating the changes in the connecting drawings. And if you would like to update some specific layout, then you can do that on the layout. Just right click and update that.
Thanks. So in one word, keep these kind of questions coming, because this is going to make sure that the webinars are going to be always relevant to you. So that's what we had. And the answer to the question. Yes, to the answer to the EES question, that's actually, quite surprisingly, it's a standardized light source format. So yes, this is something that ARCHLine supports. And this would make sure that your renders would be more lifelike, more realistic, and your lighting plans would be much more professional. And we recommend you to use the IES sources if you have any. If you don't, you can get it from the manufacturer's website, I think. Yes, that's right. So that's what we wanted to discuss during this session. Join us next Tuesday when we talk about kitchen design. And when it comes to kitchens, it means a lot of things. We are going to talk about cabinetry, worktops, kitchen appliances, and other generic kitchen-related things. Yes, that's right. Also about how you can change the distribution of the internal parts of these cabinets. Lots to learn. So make sure you tune in. See you there next Tuesday. Until then, happy designing. And don't forget to like us and subscribe to our YouTube channel so you will never miss videos like this one. Yes. Thank you. Goodbye.